This episode is brought to you by Red Riding Hood, the manga-inspired take on the classic fairy tale for readers grades K through 2, written by Christina Oxtra. In Red Riding Hood, readers review the classic story in a brand new way, with twists in the story, more diverse characters, and featuring Japanese aesthetics incorporated throughout. Red Riding Hood is part of a series published by Capstone and written by various artists with unique takes on your childhood favorites. Look out for Red Riding Hood, available on Amazon and your local bookstores. Congratulations, Christina, on your first published book. The link is in the show description. Hello, Guardians. Welcome to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast here on Boss Rush Games. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the lore archivist himself, Josh Finney.
What's good, guys? What's going on?
Josh, there's a lot to talk about tonight.
Every single week, I want everybody to know, I plan the show every week. I think of fun topics for us to discuss. I genuinely have an entire document of things I've wanted to talk about this season. And the last couple of weeks, I have just gotten thwarted at every single turn. We even had John on a couple weeks ago to specifically talk about Charged with Light mods, and I have not been able to get to that discussion now for 3 weeks in a row because they keep giving us meaty TWABs, and apparently it's going to keep happening for the next 10 weeks.
Yes, it is.
So,
yes, it is.
I'm excited all at once because I don't think they're all going to be quite as meaty as last week, which was, of course, an overhaul of the Triumph system, and this week, which is an overhaul of what they call aspirational activities.
Yeah. Speaking of aspirational activities, Josh, my dream came true this week.
Fuck you. I hate you so much for this.
The dream has happened, everybody. The dream. We are living the dream. I am living the dream. Josh is jealous of my dream coming true. The Earl himself, the Earl of Sandwich, the greatest sandwich on the planet, has followed me on Twitter.
Listen, the world's greatest hot sandwich refused to follow me even after I tweeted them. After Corey tweeted them on my behalf, multiple people from Boss Rush Games liked and shared the tweet. And the Earl himself liked it. Nothing. Nada. I have given you so much business over the years, Earl. I'm very disgruntled, and I want to speak to the manager. Do they call them managers there, or are they like dukes?
They're probably
like
dukes.
How do you think that works?
They're probably dukes, and then like court jesters, or
like, is an earl above a duke, or
I don't know. Is this something we have to discuss? Is this something we need to look up?
I'm looking it up now.
Duke, Earl. Let's see. Peerage of England. What is the difference between a duke and an earl?
Duke is the most exclusive. It goes Duke, Marquess, Earl, Viscount, and Baron.
So they're barons.
They are barons and viscounts.
Yes. So the workers there are barons. The barons of Sandwich.
I want to speak to the Viscount. That's what I want to speak to.
I want to speak to the Viscount.
I demand at once.
Look, I'm just going to smile every time I walk in that store and order my original or my BLT or my club or any other variety of delicious sandwiches there.
The Hawaiian barbecue.
Yeah.
We've been over this ad nauseum. That is the best sandwich there.
I'm just saying, I prefer a plethora of sandwiches in front of me, and I will eat them at my leisure. Okay.
If I was rich, I think I would put like an Earl of Sandwich outpost in my house.
It'd be like Richie Rich, where he puts the McDonald's in his house, but it'd be an Earl of Sandwich.
Like, I think I would do that, or I'd just like make sure that they could like build one down the street from me and like have free delivery to me. Like, this is why I'm not allowed to have vast riches and wealth, my friends. Because it would be like that, followed by a replica of Dark Drinker that I would just carry around with me in the streets, because it's illegal to carry a sword in Texas.
It's illegal to carry a sword in Texas.
It is legal to carry a sword in Texas, so I would carry Dark Drinker with my Sentinel Shield.
This is definitely not what I was expecting to come out of Texas, but
it's probably the least alarming thing that has come out of Texas in recent memory.
I mean,
let's be completely honest.
That's fair. That is fair. I'm just saying that's also pretty scary.
A little bit.
But yes, Josh, my dream has come true. The Earl of Sandwich. The Earl is welcome on this show anytime. And we can laugh at Josh for not being followed.
We really need to get that social media person on this show.
I know. We need
they actually listened to us talk about sandwiches.
You think the person who runs that social media account plays Destiny, or you think that we just talk about the sandwiches so much that every time we talk about it, like they just listen until we mention the sandwiches? And
it might be a bit of both at this point, honestly.
Yeah.
They had to listen pretty deep to find out what Zavala's sandwich order would be.
That's true. They did. Speaking of Zavala, that's an important lore corner this week.
It's a juicy lore corner. We're going to read the entire Traveler's Chosen excerpt and its possible implications, as well as kind of catch up on what all Cue Ball has been doing for the last year.
Oh, man, Zavala. Indeed.
As Asher Mir would call him, Vuvuzela.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't get over it.
Oh, man.
I'm going to miss that.
Look, I'm just saying, if the two biggest guests we could get on here would be definitely the Earl of Sandwich social media manager, and then Lance Reddick. Maybe we should just have them both host the show.
I personally would put Luke Smith up there, but...
No. The Earl of Sandwich social media manager is way higher up than Luke Smith at this point.
Get out of your own show. You are drunk with sandwich powers.
I can't help it. Look, they infused me with that delicious original. They infused me with some BLT. I'm hungry with power. Okay.
Friends, we made it approximately all of 65 seconds before we deviated to the sandwich casuals yet again.
You know, it's just, it happens. You can't not. When something this epic, this important happens in your life, you have to tell the world, or all, 300 or 400 listeners of the show. It's okay. We're gonna get into actually Destiny talk now. Josh, we're gonna talk about this, our favorite drops of the week. As we move into this.
Yeah, I think we're a little scarce on those this week.
Yeah.
The only drop I got this week was I finished 2 seals this week, actually.
Ooh.
Both within like a half hour of the other, so I felt pretty accomplished at reset. I finished the Moments of Triumph seal finally, and I believe this wasn't the earliest you could finish it, but if you skipped the trials wins, this was probably the earliest you could get it done.
Yeah.
And I finally finished after almost 2 years of trying to get this stupid title done. I almost had Dredgen in like the first month of Forsaken, but I have been vexed at every turn by trying to get 4 kills in 1 invasion. I needed 1 more completion of that. It happened on accident thanks to Xenophage, and it resulted in me getting hate mail afterwards. So I was pretty thrilled. I actually do have a drop that I got.
Ooh.
Oh my god, I can't believe I skipped this. The coveted Trials helmet was available if you got 3 wins or lost your way to finishing the weekly bounty in Trials last weekend, and I finished it late Monday night. I finished it. It is the only time that this helmet has gone up for 3 wins, to my knowledge. I believe previously the lowest was 5 wins. And usually it's reserved for 7 wins or getting to the Lighthouse. So I'm extremely happy to have this now. The only other piece I really want is the chest piece now, because I already have the arms and the legs. I would like to get the cloak eventually, just to have the full set, but everybody would know that I'm an imposter who can't make it to 5 wins. So I don't know if that would be a good thing. But yeah, helmet for Transmog. So excited.
Awesome. Yeah.
There's no eye holes on that mask at all.
I have to say, the Warlock sucks, but the Trials helmet is the best piece of armor in the entire game. The best looking to me. For me, I think that.
Yeah, the armor is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's the Trials from Destiny 1 set, so it's great. I think a lot of us always liked that armor, and it was definitely more exclusive in Destiny 1, but I like that everybody has a chance to earn it now, especially with Transmog coming.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, it makes sense. Like, okay, you get one opportunity a season to maybe earn this helmet, but you still have to work for it. You're either gonna have to lose a ton, I think you have to lose out like 6 or 7 matches, not rounds, actual matches. If you're gonna lose your way to it, we actually won our way to it. We were 1 round away multiple times from getting to 3 wins, so we did pretty good. It went really quick for us. I personally am fine with the way that the armor and the weapons are done. I like that they have the weekly bounty now, so everybody has a chance to get it into their loot pool. And once you've turned in that bounty, you can, of course, turn in your tokens as well. So, big fan. I like it. And we've actually got some Trials news in this week's TWAB. So
Nice. Well, the only thing that I got dropped this week was another Telesto. Let me tell you, it's still Telesto.
Telesto breaks the game. Okay, let's be honest. Like,
yeah,
it's not great.
It's basically xenophage at this point.
I genuinely love that every time that something breaks in the game, the immediate community response is it's Telesto's fault, because for so long, like months on end, just like every time something broke, they were like, "We've identified a game-breaking glitch with Telesto. We have to get rid of it. We have to take it out of the game." Like, if they ever do make a Destiny 3, they're never gonna bring Telesto back. Yeah. They're just
not. No. But that was kind of the only thing. I've actually been taking a little break from Destiny because I found Avengers on my Xbox, and I've been trying to finish that campaign. So Destiny's kind of been.
Yeah, same here. I'm playing Avengers and kind of catching up on some other games, some Wasteland, some Tell Me Why. If you want to hear more about those, tune in to last week's Arsenal X.
Yeah. It was a good discussion. I just downloaded Tell Me Why. I downloaded Wasteland 3 and Tony Hawk and Avengers. So those are what's on my Xbox. So
I am actually, after we finish here tonight, I am likely finishing Tell Me Why up. So episode 3 dropped this morning.
Cool. Yeah, I was waiting for the whole thing to come out to just because I think that's a game that my wife will actually sit and maybe watch and play with me, because it's an interactive story instead of just like a game, So
that's what Chelsea and I do. That's what we did with the Telltale games, and what we did with Life is Strange.
Yeah.
So she's been enjoying it.
Yeah. So that's on the list, but yeah, I played Destiny one night this weekend with Mitch. We're actually gonna dive into the Traveler's Chosen quest tomorrow night. So, but yeah, Destiny's kind of just been on the back burner for me for a little bit, just because other things in life, and I did 8 shows this week apparently. So.
But speaking of Traveler's Chosen, do we want to just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off of this very packed episode and just jump straight on into the Exodus quest?
Let's just do it.
Okay. So we got part 1 of Exodus about a month and a half ago, probably. I think like mid-July, at the beginning of Moments of Triumph is when that dropped. We were all really excited. It was Exodus preparation. You went around, you had to do quests with each of the 4 planetary vendors of the main planets that are being sunset. And you had to do little things for them. You had to go do some lost sectors. You had to kill some bosses, some roaming bosses, do some bounties, do some strikes, things like that. And the rewards that we got were like the curated malicious birthright. We were getting strike and nightfall specific weapons for these planets, kind of giving everybody a chance to fill out their Wayfarer seal, which, as we discussed last week, is one of the seals that's being sunset. That was kind of our first confirmation that was going to happen. Part 2 released this week, which it was pushed back almost a full month. They originally intended to drop this in early August. They pushed it back by about 4 weeks. You go back to each of those, and there's tons of lore cards that you get with those, which we are going to dive into with Lore Corner next week to give everybody a chance to get to those. We're not going to, and especially since Corey hasn't been able to play it yet, we don't want to spoil the storylines for those. But there is some resolution for Asher, Sloane, Brother Vance, and Anna, and even Rasputin. Everybody from the whole first year kind of gets a nice resolution in a way, and kind of gives us an idea of what we may be facing when these planets become unvaulted. But the actual Traveler's Chosen quest line, Exodus Evacuation, the rewards you get during it is really cool. Again, they're giving out Nightfall-specific loot. There are 2 weapons that really kind of raised everybody's eyebrows, I think, which is the curated God, I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's the shotgun, Mindbender's Ambition, the weapon that has terrorized the Crucible since Forsaken came out. It was just handed to everybody this week during Iron Banner. So we'd actually seen that gun kind of taper off this season with Fellwinter's Lie out. And now everybody's running around with it again, trying to use it in light-enabled activities before it goes into the vault this fall. Of course, you can still use it in regular old PvP, strikes, patrols, etc. And the other reward you got was, one of the other major reward was Braytech Osprey, the rocket launcher associated with the Nokra strike on Mars, which, if you have ever grinded for Wayfarer, is the most absolute pain in the butt weapon to get from a Nightfall. I think it took me 15 Nightfalls before I got it to drop. I literally did 15 runs of Nokris in a row to get that gun to drop last summer to try and get Wayfarer, because I was like, I'm getting one legit seal that is not Moments of Triumph before we go into Shadowkeep. And me and my buddy Phil, we killed ourselves to get that done. We got it done, and I don't think we've touched that strike since, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. And at the end, of course, you get Zavala gives you Traveler's Chosen. He has some interesting dialogue. Again, we're going to get into exactly what he says and kind of his general mood a little bit later. But the Traveler's Chosen sidearm, if you don't remember, is you actually start this out. It's the gun you start the Red War campaign with. They did this very much like they did the Kostov assault rifle from Rise of Iron.
Oh, you mean if you kept it, you get it?
No. I kind of wondered if that would be the case, but since you can just go back and create a new character and go grab it, and they know that's what people were doing during Rise of Iron, there's just no way that they're going to let you do it now.
Yeah.
But the perk on this, so one of the perks is Gathering Light. Final blows with this weapon grant stacks of Gathering Light. As you consume stacks, it grants you melee, grenade, and class ability energy based on the number of stacks. You hold down whatever your reload button is. So like on Xbox, it's X. On PlayStation, I think it's square. And that'll consume your stacks. When you use those stacks, a perk called Gift to the Traveler kicks in. Each stack of Gathering Light improves reload, handling, and target acquisition.
Ooh.
This gun is already showing up in a lot of class ability-based builds, with good reason. It is a kinetic sidearm. It's one of the very few kinetic... To me, it's one of the good kinetic sidearms in the game. I run Breachlight a lot myself in my build with Vorpal weapon on it. This is a really fun gun. I was trying it out in Crucible and Quick Play the other day, and I really, really enjoyed it. I could see a mode like Momentum Control being really fun to use this in, but more so, I think this gives you a legit... Not that there aren't legit sidearms for PvE content. I like to use Last Hope a lot, personally, and Breachlight, of course, but this, to me, is one of the better exotics that you can make an entire build around right now, which I think is really important going into this fall, especially with stasis. We're going to get into the stasis powers here in a minute, but I'm really curious to see how this is going to find a way in its in these builds as we go forward. So
yeah, I like I said, hopefully I'll have more to say on this weapon next week, because I really want to. We're diving into the quest tomorrow, so
yeah.
It's cool though. Everything I've seen about it and everything I've just been watching about it is it's cool. Like, I'm not a sidearm guy, but
yeah,
if you're doing like ability builds and everything, like, I think this is a neat exotic.
This is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to try out with if you like min-maxing your armor.
Yeah.
This is to me just an awesome thing, and I think especially with the stasis upgrades that are coming, there's definitely going to be really creative, wacky builds that are going to be done with this gun specifically.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to play with it more. Although, like I said, we're both kind of not in a lull, but we are both kind of taking a break for a little bit before Festival of the Lost. I'm sure we'll both play a little bit with Fall Grandma, and then before we jump in with Beyond Light fully.
Yeah. Yeah, because like
this is something that'll be in my arsenal come day one for Beyond Light for sure.
Yeah, I really just want to, I want to get this, and then honestly, I'll probably take a little bit of a break, just to finish up some other games before these new consoles come out. Because like the Mario Anniversary stuff's coming out. There's
next week, yeah.
Ubisoft's releasing every game under the sun this month or this year, so those games will be out. Like I told you, my main games for Series X will be Destiny, Beyond Light, and probably Gears Tactics at the start. And Destiny's going to be taking up most of my time. I want to play the 4K 60 is going to be awesome. Although I don't know how the Series X is going to fit in my entertainment center. My wife and I were talking about that tonight because they released all those pictures, those size comparison pictures.
Yeah. We actually got a brief glimpse at Beyond Light in the Series S trailer this week.
Yeah.
Of fighting Vex on Europa, and the field of view definitely looks a little bit bigger. It's not quite PC sized, but it is better than what we currently have on Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. But if just talking about changes though, Corey, do you have any more before we jump into the TWAB? Do you have any more thoughts on Traveler's Chosen, or you kind of hold those until you actually get the gun and get to play with it a little?
mean, I'll have more to talk about next week, because I like what I've seen, but I want to actually use it and try it out and see what kind of build I can use with it and see how it works into my arsenal. But I haven't taken Xenophage off since I got it, because that kid's awesome.
Yeah, Xenophage. I think Xenophage is the MVP exotic of the year, personally, of Shadowkeep. There's been a lot that have been really fun. I really like Deathbringer. I love Traveler's Chosen. Witherhoard was awesome. Really, I think they nailed the exotics overall this year. Bastion is great. Bastion's great for PvP. Leviathan's Breath is a legit fun bow to use, especially as a heavy one. I don't think I've quite been disappointed in any of the exotics we've gotten so far this year. I think they really got back to making them creative and fun.
Yeah, and Ruinous Effigy also. That can.
I honestly completely forgot Ruinous Effigy was one that came out. Divinity. Divinity is a must for Gambit modes and for raid bosses. So it's nice. I personally have a support class build that I like to run with that. But
yeah. I'm really excited. I before we get into the TWAB, because I know it's a meaty TWAB and we've got a meaty lore corner, but I've been throwing it back and forth. Like, do I really need a Series X? And then I was looking at the Series S, and I'm like, man, that Series S is it's growing on me. I don't know how I feel about the big, boombox on top, but it's growing on me. But I've been getting rid of a bunch of stuff, and I almost have enough for a Series X now. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna get that. So
yeah, that's the point that I got to. Yeah, I'm absolutely getting that, and I'm getting the Series S for my girlfriend. So
yeah, at some point down the line, I might get a Series S for my office, because once we start doing live streams again and stuff, I don't want to have to keep moving that box in and out, and
yeah,
it's a thought. So all right, What's in the TWAB? The TWAB TWAB.
TWAB. So in the TWAB, kind of a celebration of coming up on 7 years of Destiny. We are starting Year 7 technically this week, which I believe they're acknowledging it's Year 7, but they're kind of being like, well, Year 7's technically starting with Beyond Light, since it always starts with content releases. Mm-hmm. And in universe, it's the same way. It kind of starts off with a little overview of Stasis, which we're going to put that on the back burner. We'll cover that last in the TWAB before we dive into the Stasis abilities. The first thing that we talk about is the new armor sets that are coming to the vendors. There are core playlist rewards, of course, for Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible. They are going to create a new set of armor each year for these activities. So it'll only be there for a year, and then it's going to go away. This is part of what we were talking about with vendor refreshes that the community has really been asking for. This is one of the most requested things. We haven't had an armor refresh with the vendors since Forsaken came out. Mm-hmm. For 2 years now, we've been getting the same wing contender and I don't know, whatever set Zavala has. We've been getting the same junk since then. And I think we're all tired of it. Especially, I'm really tired of getting the Apocalypse set from Drifter.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of over getting all that armor now. If you don't have it within 2 years, then you just don't need it. The armor that they're giving out, I think looks kind of cool. Like, it's all themed, obviously. Crucible is red and black. Vanguard is orange and white. And Gambit is green and black with, of course, the symbols for each of those scattered across the armor. The armor can be earned by completing activities or through vendor rank ups. And weekly challenges will also be updated to offer avenues for player to earn high stat packages for this armor. This was a no-brainer move. I don't know why we didn't really have this before. I get that the resources really weren't there going into Shadowkeep with the split from Activision, but it seems like they've really taken the fact that we were saying seasons were really lackluster to heart. And these are going to be permanent changes going forward in the ecosystem. Of course, we know that there's not going to be Eververse armor anymore, that's also going to be earnable. So yeah, I think this is a great move.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. If you want to check out what that looks like, we can't really show it to you for audio listeners, but definitely go check out the TWAB, take a look at it. The community's kind of like, I'm going to attempt
to do what I was doing yesterday during our breakdowns of stuff. I'm going to try to live produce this video. So, where's that link at? There it is. Okay. Let's see if this works. Can I put it there? Oh, I can. All right, we're going into studio mode. All right, here we go. Does this work? It works. Fade. Ooh. Here we go. Everybody, there's your armor. There's your armor.
Yeah, so the community is a little bit divided on the armor. Some people think it looks really crappy. Others think it looks perfectly fine. I personally am a fan of that Hunter set. Mm-hmm. I really like how that looks.
The Hunter set definitely looks the best, I will say.
Yeah. That seems to be pretty typical lately, which I'm okay with as a Hunter main. I just really want to see what the cloak looks like, personally. And I do believe it's going to be, don't quote me on this, but I think it's the same armor that you see for your class there. I think it's going to be the same thing across 3 vendors, just colored differently.
Yeah, because that warlock set definitely has the drifter snake on it. And then, I bet they're just patterned different, like you said.
Which I'm fine with, because I'm on a quest to get as many knives on my Hunter as possible.
Well,
so this gives me a chest knife now. The Titan one seems unsafe. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that knife is very close to the neck. What if he has to look down?
You know what? Who knows? When Beyond Light launches, though, with the launch of Year 4, we are seeing the return of pursuit weapons. For anyone who doesn't quite remember a redo on pursuit weapons, they were introduced with Season 3 back in Warmind with Redrix's broadsword, which was Redrix's claymore, excuse me, which was a just atrocious quest. Broadsword wasn't too much better in Forsaken, but we were getting pinnacle weapons after that. That's of course Mountaintop, Recluse, Revoker. Basically every weapon that came out was super overpowered though, and because of that, they're all getting nerfed, and they all got nerfed into the ground. It still didn't do anything. They're still the most viable weapons. And so they were like, we're just going to get rid of them altogether. They are the main reason why we're having sunsetting for legendary weapons. And this year's pinnacle rewards were kind of lacking. I personally really like exit strategy. I think Python's a really cool shotgun, but I didn't really use anything else. Randy's throwing knife was a cool gun in Crucible, but they never really hit that level. The last one we got was Point of the Stag with Iron Banner last season. And Fellwinters was a quest reward, but other than that, we really haven't had any for about 6 months now. It'll be even longer once Beyond Light actually comes out. It'll have been about 8 months since our last one and almost a full year since our last set. This is a special sniper. It kind of looks like Revoker 2.0. They're not telling us the name of it quite yet, but they say in the TWAB, our goal is to have a pursuit weapon available each season earned through a focused quest. Banshee will let you choose between Strikes, Crucible, or Gambit to earn the base model. Take a moment to think about how you want to earn the weapon because you'll be locked into specific objectives for whichever activity you pick. I am personally waiting for the data mine quest steps on this because I'm not about to pick Gambit and have to snipe in Gambit repeatedly or in Crucible, and I really don't like taking snipers into Strikes. So it's kind of a trifecta of disappointment for me. And then once you finish the main quest, Zavala, Shax, and Drifter will each give you an additional quest, which will reward you with weapon ornaments to theme of these activities. We were talking about this before we went live. I think we both like the base model the best out of these four.
Yeah, it's actually up on screen right now.
Okay, yeah. So if you're taking a look at the screen, if you're watching it on Twitch or on YouTube, it's very menagerie themed. It's very Callus themed, which I think that's actually going to tie into why Callus and the Leviathan are not around anymore. Like maybe this is a parting gift to the Guardian or something for now. Yeah. I can see them tying it in that way. That would be really cool. I think that the Vanguard skin looks really bad. The Crucible one looks really bad.
Yeah, I'm going to try to shuffle through them real quick here on screen. So just
keep
going.
I do really like the Gambit one, though. I am a big fan of green and black aesthetic, like, period. So having that on a weapon that I would use is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Playlist changes are the next thing that they talk about. The Crucible. Of course, we went over what's going to be in there come this fall. The biggest changes that they have, though, are relating to Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris. Iron Banner is going to have a freelance playlist that will make its debut this fall in Season 12. Similar to Competitive, this will be a smaller node next to Iron Banner. For anyone who doesn't know, freelance it's a solo queue, essentially. Mm-hmm. You get put with other people who are solo queuing. There's no stacks allowed in there. This is something that the community's been asking for a very long time. We were asking for it for comp, and they finally gave it to us with Shadowkeep. It is what made getting Recluse obtainable for me, finally, was me getting in and just grinding it out for 2 days. I really, really like this. I haven't quite hit the level of frustration other people have until this season with Iron Banner. Specifically this week, I got really annoyed when I was playing it on Tuesday. Just like, all right, guess I'm sitting this one out because I'm so ticked off right now. But this is a really welcome change. The community's been wanting this forever. Thank God that Bungie is finally listening. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out, though. I think it might make regular Iron Banner a little bit more brutal now if you're not playing with a team. Yeah. But who knows? Like, I personally still like the challenge and the thrill of Iron Banner, especially when a new season drops. I'm usually not playing it by the third one of the season like I am right now. I'm just chasing a specific sidearm. So
yeah.
The other thing is Trials of Osiris. Trials of Osiris is going to continue on like normal, but adept weapons rewarded to those reaching the lighthouse are returning to Trials in Season 12. They are going to talk about the functionality of those weapons in a sandbox preview that is planned for October. They do make note of that, but I wanted to address that real fast Of course, they do show us a preview of the new Crucible UI. It's much more slimmed down than it currently is.
Yeah, there it is right here.
Yeah, strikes. It's still going to continue to be Vanguard strikes and Nightfall the Ordeal. Regular Nightfalls are being taken out, which I think is a good move with so many strikes being removed. They're taking out regular Nightfalls. Of course, playlists will offer weekly challenges. Nightfall the Ordeal will continue to feature matchmaking for lower difficulties and better rewards at higher difficulties. But they are also looking to add adept weapons to strikes in a future season. And they're going to have
awesome.
Yeah, this is a change that's not going to come through until about halfway through this content year. They do say we'll have updates closer to Season 13 on what to expect. I expect that and Transmog is probably arriving in Season 13, maybe 14. But either way, that is really cool. That is something that was starting to become kind of a topic among the community is, okay, so how can we get adept weapons? There has to be an incentive to go do strikes. And I don't like doing strikes as it is, especially higher level ones. This would get me into Master Nightfalls again, I think. It might even get me to attempt a Grandmaster eventually. Having rewards like this, especially if the perks are worth it. I really like having the Cerility that perk on my Summoner. Big fan of that. And of course, the last thing, and by far the most meaty part of the entire TWAB, is the changes to Gambit. We talked about this real briefly last week, but Gambit and Gambit Prime are being condensed into a single mode. They said they set out some goals when they were doing this. It was to build a more approachable Gambit Prime, keeping the one-round format with a longer round, but without the Gambit Prime armor perks, rebalance the moat space to last 2/3 of the match rather than half of it, and speed up the primeval fight. You have the feeling of a boss rush. They said they started with the encounters. Without the Reaper buffs, the large bosses that came in enemy waves were too tanky, so they pulled them down to all be mini bosses or elites. I like this. No more giant Hydras or giant Centaurians running around. Not Centurions, whatever the big tanky guys with the giant machine guns are for the Cabal. Like, none of this crap is going to be running around anymore. They said, so that way the pacing should feel like how Gambit feels for a pickup group or how Prime feels for a fully kitted out team. They also playtested Moat's phase target a score of 150 with a heavier Moat drain, so they pulled back the current Gambit Prime Moat target and drain. They started with the blockers, but they have taken the Taken captains out of the lineup. No more Taken captains in Gambits.
Yes.
Because it's too much for a 10 mode blocker. They've replaced him with the Phalanx, who can be tough to kill, but is not as lethal. And without the armor perks, they also took out the giant blockers, so no more gigantic Phalanxes.
That's so awesome. So excited for that. Not even going to lie to you.
Invasions during the moat phases locked to 3 just like Gambit Prime, but pulled back the minimum time between invasions from 10 seconds to 20 seconds, so that you're not getting invaded back to back. And for the boss fight, they started with the Primeval fight, removed the Time Slayer buffs, increased the health and potency of the Slayer buff given when killing envoys. The envoys are going to respawn every 40% damage done to the Primeval. So if you get invaded and the Primeval is healed a lot, you have an opportunity to get more buffs and catch up. The fight length will end up somewhere between the original Gambit and Gambit Prime, so we adjusted the invasion timer to match right in between Gambit and Gambit Prime timing. So they're expecting this mode to be a bit quicker than Gambit Prime currently is, thanks to the changes to the boss phase, particularly. They said they were also finding out that there's one specific thing I was looking for in here, but I don't know where it is. Basically, they said they were finding that even with if you had like a full team, like you were still able to steamroll things a little bit too well. And so that's part of the reason. Oh yeah, here we go. So when they're doing the Moats target a score of 150, they were finding it was allowing organized teams to steamroll even more effectively and not less like they planned. So they've scaled back the current Moat target and the drain that is currently in Gambit Prime. All in all, I think these are real welcome changes to a mode that is really divisive within the community.
Yeah, these are good changes. Like I look, I'm not gonna lie, I hate the 3-round gambit stuff. Like I can't. And like Gambit Prime is fine, but like I found myself less and less being interested in Gambit because it was just too.
Mm-hmm. I found myself not wanting to play it by myself. I really didn't care for Gambit when Forsaken came out. That I found a really steady play group in Season of Opulence, and Gambit really hasn't bothered me since then because I typically only run it with 2 or 3 friends.
Yeah, it's definitely better when you play it with someone.
We're almost always going in with a full team. We were playing Gambit Prime a lot, actually, because we all had the full armor. And that's just, it's completely unfair. Like, if you have one person with Invader armor, you basically are going to win.
Yeah.
If they're a competent Invader, which our guy is awesome. He gets sweeps all the time. But I've been playing a lot more solo Gambit lately, trying to get my weekly challenges done, trying to get my Bright Dust done, and it's becoming a massive chore to log in and do Gambit. Like, some of these weeklies just require you to do 4 or 5 matches. Just like, I don't have it in me to do that.
Yeah.
2 or 3 is the most I want to play a week. If I'm having a good time playing with friends, I don't mind playing a couple hours of Gambit a week, but I think we're all just burned out and looking for a revamp. Like, we play a lot of the rotators and Crucible because that keeps it fresh. Like, I hope this is enough to make Gambit feel fresh, but you can't help escaping the fact that you need more maps for this game.
Yeah.
This mode specifically, you gotta add some maps. Like, where's my moon map? Where's my Europa one? Where's my Cosmodrome one?
Right.
Like, hey, give me some cool maps. Heck, make the aerial zone. Make part of that a Gambit map. I think that'd be really cool. Like, I'd be down for that courtyard to be one. I think there's a lot of really cool things you could do, but you know what? That's why I don't design the game.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Other than that, though, really the last thing they mention in the TWAB is that they know that we're really hungry for info. They've been really quiet on Beyond Light outside of a few trailers, and with the stasis dumps, we're starting to get there. They say in the coming weeks, they are going to have more details on how weekly pursuits are going to change. We do know the Bright Dust allotment is going to change to be more favorable towards people who only play one character as opposed to 3. And the economy, Eververse, sandbox changes, and more are all going to be addressed in the coming weeks, and solo queue Iron Banner. But they're trying to kind of put the finishing touches on Beyond Light right now. That's the whole reason for the delay, of course.
Right.
So I expect when we might have a couple more quiet weeks here, and then the last 4 or 5 weeks before launch is just going to be bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, really meaty TWAB, really good TWAB, good info there for the changes, and all of these are needed changes too. These are things the community has been wanting.
Yeah.
That we've been really vocal about all year. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. I'm liking all these changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know, like, technically they're making the game smaller and whatever, but like, I feel like it's less intimidating for people who have been playing Destiny, but like maybe don't have the time to spend like 4, 5, 6 hours a day playing it, you know, and making the Crucible choices smaller, making the Gambit stuff, you know, more streamlined, and getting rid of some of these planets that like are kind of worthless, to be honest, is like, I'm excited, you know, because like, they're bringing back the Cosmodrome, which is like, oh, nostalgia, and then they're giving us a new area in Europa, and yeah, I don't know, I just feel like this is a good start to something new, and then once they start adding stuff later, it's just going to be like, okay, this is how they wanted it to be probably 6 years ago.
Right. I feel like, especially with the Vault and taking the time to revamp these destinations and stuff, we are getting to a point where the game is going to be what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Especially if they can figure out how to cut down on the file size at some point.
Yeah, it's like they're rebuilding it on the fly, sort of. And you know, without like actually shutting the game down, and then you know, I think it's fun. I think it's smart, and I like it. I'm digging it.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to shift gears there into really kind of the meat of the show today, which we promised last week that we were going to talk about all three new subclasses at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through each one individually. We're going to share our thoughts on each one before we move on to the next. We're going to start with the Titan. We're going to start with the Behemoth. Start with Corey's class here.
Yes. Yeah.
They are meant to be high offense and high defense. So the three main abilities here are the Shiver Strike. The Behemoth summons Stasis Gauntlet and lunges forward with explosive speed, smashing through anything in their way. Upon reaching their target, they unleash a devastating jab that sends their foe careening backwards while slowing nearby enemies. So kind of like your, I don't know if that's I think that's the melee. Seems like it's going to kind of stun and slow enemies up a little bit when you use your melee ability, which sounds really, really cool. Of course, there are minute-long videos for each of these that are out there in the wild. I think that's awesome. Ground control. The Behemoth slams their gauntlets into the ground, sending out tremors of powerful stasis energy that leave crystals in their wake and freeze all enemies in the vicinity. And the Glacial Quake. They compel stasis energy to attach to their body, covering themselves in frozen darkness, forming a stasis gauntlet on one hand, increasing damage resistance in the process. Man, I think this is really, really cool. They basically say they use stasis as a means of both creation and destruction. The images we see of them in their super is just it's breathtakingly cool. It may be some of the coolest super animations that we've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm dude. Every time I see the stasis videos, and I know like they're meant to be super cinematic and make it look cool, but it's working. It looks cool. It all looks so cool.
Like this is I think this might be one of the ones I'm most excited for here. You can use your abilities defensively or offensively, such as building crystalline walls to block enemies and gunfire. So that's presumably what the Titan Barricade will be for this class. He's creating just a wall of ice, which I can't wait to see that in both raids and in Crucible. Like, I think that's really going to add a dynamic to, okay, if we have multiple Titans, we don't need everybody running a bubble. Why isn't somebody run stasis and be throwing up ice walls for us? Freeze some of these ads, be on ad control. Kind of add another component to the bubble and well combo that we have going in so many encounters.
Yeah.
And man, just the Shiver Strike, where you're up in midair and you slam down, the Glacial Quake. That's just, man, this is a really, really cool subclass, I think. The only thing I would say is it's yet another roaming super for a class that already has so many, with the Sentinel Shield, with, of course, every kind of hammer humanly possible, with the entire Arc subclass. Like, this is something like I really felt like they needed something that was equivalent to the Hunter's Golden Gun or to Warlock's Nova Bombs, really.
Yeah.
Here. Something that can be used in a raid encounter, because right now I still feel like so many Titans are going to be asked to run Bubble, which is fine. But when you have multiple Titans, it's like, well, do we all really need to be running Bubble? We ran into this with Scourge in the past. We had 4 bubbles in our Scourge clear.
Yep.
And it's just, at a certain point, it's like, okay, this would be really cool to have somebody just going around, and maybe not in Scourge, because it won't be that helpful, but in something like Crown of Sorrow, or Last Wish ad control, I could see this being a really cool super in encounters like that. Hell, if you're protecting the banks in Garden of Salvation, this could be a really cool offensive super to be running around using. It's just something for boss damage is what's sorely needed for this class, and I feel like that's what this overlooks.
Yeah. I to be honest, I'm kind of like the super, like it looks like a little bit like the the Striker Titan
Fist of Havoc.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But at the same time, like, the abilities that they've been showing off outside of that are like, it's just, I mean, it's awesome. Like, I'm really kind of tired of running bubble all the time. Like
Oh yeah.
running that Sentinel Titan, especially in like big group PvE activities, is like, yeah, whatever. I'm tired of this. I want to throw hammers. I want to, do something cool. And this looks like an alternative that can do both.
This is a step towards that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely feel like this is more useful than throwing hammers or running Thunder Crash or something. I mean, Thunder Crash, like, what are you really using that in outside of, like, things like Altars of Sorrow and Crucible? Like, what are you really using that in? Like, I think it's one of the coolest supers. Like, I think Titans have some of the most unique supers, but they're just not usable against raid bosses, and that's what everybody wants to do is the end game. Like, we want to know how these classes work in the end game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on the Behemoth?
Well, I just wonder, speaking of in-game stuff with this, I wonder if that raid is gonna be designed around these new supers.
I have to imagine that it will be. Man, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, we didn't really have, unless you count building encounters around needing a well in the last 4 raids. That would be interesting. I mean, this is really, I guess this is the first time we've really added a new element. Well, it is flat out the first time we've added a new element. And we already know this is going to play a little bit differently. We've seen some hints in the footage that we're creating orbs of power, not orbs of light.
Mm-hmm.
From this, we saw that in the test footage that was released before the games, or with the Gamescom trailer, and then we saw it again hinted at very quickly in the snippet of footage that was in the Series S trailer on Tuesday. So I'm kind of wondering if they're going to build that up or not. I don't really know what else would be coming. I imagine there's going to be all new mods and stuff that's going to make these viable. And of course, we don't know how the artifact system is going to change it. Not artifact, aspects and fragments are going to change this, which we went over last week.
Yeah.
So I think that's very much a play your own style. But again, the concern is there's the long range super is still continuing to be the thing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like this. I am all for everything that I've seen so far.
So we're going to see Corey becoming a behemoth on November 10th. Is what you are.
You are. You're gonna see it.
This is something that may get me to play a warlock though. The Shadebinder. I think this looks really, really dope. They finally gave warlocks a staff, which is enough reason for me to run around screaming, "I'm Harry Potter."
You shall not pass.
Man, I already have the emote for it, right? One quick note on the Titan.
Uh-oh.
That was weird. I thought I heard something. I thought I heard an alarm going off.
I thought I heard something high pitched on your end too.
Yeah, there was. I'm kind of wondering what it was.
Do we need to pause? Do we need to go check this out?
No, I think we're okay. I think Chelsea was making something in the oven, and our smoke alarms are really finicky here.
Oh, yeah. So I get it. We were in our apartment. Every time we would cook chicken and some smoke came off of it, they would go off. So,
yeah, I think we're okay.
You know where that doesn't happen? Earl of Sandwich. The follower of me.
Or you're in your own freaking house. I've never had a smoke alarm go off from just cooking normally in an oven until this apartment. Never. I've lived in 4 other apartments and I've never had this happen before. But getting back to the Shadebinder, the flavor text here: keen masters of destruction, launching projectiles, freezing as many enemies as possible, and shattering them all in one fell swoop. It ensures no foe is left standing. They harness the power of the darkness to summon a stasis staff, the Winter's Wrath. The Shatter Shockwave detonates crystals on their staff, creating a devastating shockwave that freezes all nearby, or shatters all nearby frozen enemies, and the Penumbral Blast fires stasis projectiles from the staff that explode on impact. Enemies hit by the crystalline shrapnel are immediately frozen solid. This is probably the coolest of the new supers.
Oh yeah, definitely by far.
It's the most creative.
That Shatter Shockwave is amazing looking.
Yeah, Warlocks get all the cool shit. I really, 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 I'm gonna keep saying it, really like this.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into the abilities real quickly here, if I can find where they talk about them. Yeah, you summon the stasis staff, you fire projectiles, and the Penumbral Blast is a melee attack. Quick burst of stasis energy that erupts from the staff and freezes anyone it hits, and then you can deal with the frozen foes or leave them be. You can literally leave the frozen enemies there as obstacles.
Yeah.
I love this.
I know, that's so cool. This, like, I actually started playing as my warlock like 2 weeks ago to level my warlock up to level, and just because of this super. I'm not gonna lie.
I 100% will be playing a warlock this fall also, in addition to my beloved hunter, which we'll get to next. I want to describe this super for a second, just how cool this sounds. Winter's Wrath. You summon your stasis staff and fire projectiles that freezes opponents. The second stage of the super begins and the fight ends. It says in parentheses, when the Guardian raises the staff, detonates the stasis crystal, and sends a shockwave that disintegrates nearby frozen opponents. I think this is going to be way more useful for crowd control and for strikes and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I can see this quickly. If you have more than one warlock, I can see this becoming a go-to for Nightfalls or for Gambits.
Or like a raid encounter that has multiple enemies. Yeah. Like, especially if you get if you go back to King's Fall and you do the totems and just have those a ton of enemies just running at you all the time. Like, this sounds like a good kind of ad control.
I'm imagining this in the Vault of Glass for the pre-Atheon encounter. That's where I'm imagining this being really cool and really useful. But I think this is another really, really, really well done super, third-person super, especially for the warlocks. I believe it's in third person at least. Even if it's first person, this is still a really, really cool super. I like it, and to me, it's the one that changes the playstyles the most out of the three. And I think there's just so much you can do with that. You can change so much on that. Like, hey, I'm gonna freeze everybody and run on ahead. You guys, clean up, get the point, get those points, get those kills that you need, etc. And kind of going back to the Titan, I know we were bemoaning that it's not useful for raid encounters, but I think that one is going to be really useful in Gambit specifically.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see both of these working together in tandem in Gambit, especially when it comes to things like Primeval Envoys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so basically, Dark Gandalf is what this thing is. We've already gone over of course, the aspects. We went over that last week. That's pretty much what the rest of the article talks about here. But yeah, it's. I think this is a really, really cool class. This is the first time I think I've looked at a subclass and gone, yeah, I want to play something other than a hunter. Like, I may have to have a second character constantly leveled up to use the fun abilities. Don't get me wrong, I like using Chaos Reach. I'm not good with Dawnblade at all, and it's a running joke that I only play my Warlock when Mayhem is up so I can get double Bright Dust. I only play it in the Crucible. I have played it a little bit out in the... I did do some for the Guardian Games stuff. I went and played a little Altars of Sorrow with it. It's not my least favorite thing. I think playing a Titan is by far my least favorite, unless I'm in the Crucible. I think it's just stupid fun to eat people there. But this is something I could genuinely see developing as a second character that I would want to play in PvE content, on the condition that I get to be Shapebinder, that I don't have to do well. So Corey, any final thoughts on the Shadebinder before we move on to the Revenant?
I mean, I think it's the coolest new super. It makes me feel bad for making fun of Warlocks for 6 years, but that's okay. It's a cool looking super, and I can't wait to use it.
I always thought the Warlocks had the most space, the most sci-fi style abilities. Honestly, I mean, the Hunters, we summon a gun or a bow. Whoop-de freaking do. Literally everybody has our gun. It's the last word. That's what you're using when you fire a golden gun. Everybody has that. Everyone has a bow now. It's no longer special to us. Cool. We have a pole and we have two invisible blades. Woohoo! I'm so glad that we have unique things to us.
I have a hammer.
But that's why I'm really excited for this last one, Corey.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. We're reading this in real time. I have not looked at this at all because I wanted my reaction to be on here.
Yeah, I'm fading it in on the video now.
The Hunter Revenant, Silence and Squall, channeling stasis towards them. Revenants form comma blades and use them to unleash a two-pronged attack. So Deadly Edge. Upon impact, the first blade shatters and sends out a wave of stasis energy that freezes any enemies in the surrounding area. And the Stasis Storm. The second blade hits and creates a violent stasis storm that hones in on nearby enemies, slowing, damaging, and eventually freezing them. This is going to be a bonkers super. I fully believe that this will be the first one nerfed thanks to PvP and Trials. I fully expect this to get nerfed within a month or two of launch.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be Blade Barrage 2.0 and Spectral Blades 2.0, so I'm going to enjoy it while I can. The Withering Blade, though, the Revenant throws razor-sharp stasis into the fray that will ricochet off multiple enemies and surfaces, slowing and damaging them in the process. This is the kind of stuff I want to see. Like, that's like a Yondu style thing.
Yeah, that ricochet is going to be just devastating, I feel like.
Yeah, I think this is just so cool. They kind of went for a ninja with this, they said. And yeah, I'm very excited. I'm not a big Spectral Blades fan. I definitely didn't like Arc Blade in Destiny 1. This is a super I can't wait to play with, though, because it's more than just slashing your enemies and turning invisible. It is an entire play style can be built around this one super.
Yes.
This is, when we talk about Traveler's Chosen being used for subclasses, this is what I'm talking about, is using Traveler's Chosen for the Revenant or for the Shadebinder. I think those are two subclasses it's going to immediately go super well with. So get good with it now and practice. But they say the Withering Blade is the melee attack. Of course, you throw the stasis into the fight. It ricochets off at everything. And if you land two Shrunken on the same target, that enemy will be instantly frozen.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Cannot wait to take this into Nightfalls and into raid encounters.
Yeah.
With fully charged ability energy, you can unleash your super, Silence and Squall, named after... Those are actually the names of the blades, by the way. That is canonical.
Yeah.
The first blade, when thrown, detonates on impact, blah, blah, blah. The second blade will embed itself in a surface or in an enemy and then detonate, creating a stasis storm that will track nearby enemies, slowing and damaging them as they make contact. I am very, very, very excited for this to be brought into the Crucible as well. It's about time that we had a super that was good in every... Okay, just kind of all around without having to have an exotic. Like, for instance, nobody is using Golden Gun unless you're using in PvE stuff, unless you have Celestial Nighthawk on.
Yeah.
Like, really the only thing I think that we have that's good all around is our Tether. That's good in any encounter. Just like, you know, I don't even know if Warlocks and Titans really have one that's like that. Like, we have really one of the only supers that's good in any activity, even though I stubbornly run Blade Barrage in everything.
I mean, of course, you're looking at a guy who uses the hammers while wearing the Helm of Saint 14 because it looks cool. So,
I do want to touch on the aspects and the fragments that they tease in this. Even though we covered these last week, this is new. This all came out on Tuesday. Shatter Drive. Activate when mid-air to quickly to send and shatter nearby targets on impact. That's kind of like a Titan melee in a lot of ways. I really, really like that personally, because that's one of the things I've always liked about the Titans. So I kind of dig that one. That's going to be an aspect. And then down in the fragments, we have one called the Whisper of Hedrons. Gain a bonus to weapon damage after freezing a target with stasis. And you lose 10 strength when you do that, but that seems like a worthy sacrifice to make because the whole class is built around freezing everybody.
Yeah.
I really like that. So, Corey, final thoughts on the Hunter on the Revenant before we have one final stasis thing to talk about at the end that will affect everybody.
I mean, I think the Hunter looks cool. I think the Shuriken, I think that's a cool, kind of projectile. I think it could do a lot of interesting things if people get good with it. But yeah, I mean, I don't really play as a hunter, but I'm interested to play with people who do play with this, and I want to see. Like, I think the most interesting thing is to see how these supers play off of each other. Honestly,
For sure,
because I think more than ever, probably since the tether, that these there's actually going to be a use for all of these supers at one time. So I'm really interested to see how they play off of each other.
Yeah, I am definitely here for this. The final thing down here is talking about grenades for all subclasses. Apart from the intrinsic stasis abilities that will be part of each subclass, all Guardian classes using stasis will have their choice of a variety of stasis grenades to use in combat. So I read this as it's no longer grenades locked to a certain class, but these will be available to all stasis classes, which is really cool news to me. The Glacier Grenade. Upon contact with the ground, a wall of stasis crystals instantly bursts from the earth, and nearby enemies are frozen inside of stasis crystals. They have multiple uses, from encasing enemies to creating cover. When destroyed, crystals will create an AoE burst damage to nearby enemies. So, you could kind of deploy it as a trap, I think. Like, that's really cool. Especially, in mob situations or in, even in the control. Hurl it at a point and shoot it as soon as it makes impact. Team shoot it. I could see that being a big deal in modes like that. Mayhem is going to be nuts with things like this.
Oh, yeah.
The second one is our Cold Snap Grenade. Upon impact with the ground or an enemy, this grenade unleashes a wave of stasis energy that races along the ground in the direction of the closest nearby enemy, freezing them and then searching out the next nearby foe. You can freeze up to 3 enemies with a single Cold Snap Grenade. We're all going to be hating stasis in the Crucible, by the way. This is going to be the worst. I am very nervous about how, because there's got to be different applications to it in PvE versus PvP. I feel they're going to intrinsically treat Guardians maybe like stronger enemies to where it won't freeze multiples unless they're all standing right there. And then the Duskfield Grenade creates stasis fields that suck enemies into them when forming. Once an enemy is caught inside, they will be slowed and, if unable to make it out in time, frozen in place. That Glacier Grenade is the one that we were seeing where they were throwing it onto a wall and then jumping on top of it. That is really cool to me. I think that offers new mobility options too for things like, not just for PvE, but for Gambit, for Crucible maps, to get to new vantage points. This is really cool. I think all 3 of those sound really cool, and I can't wait to try them out. I will definitely be using Glacier in PvE, and I can see using Cold Snap a lot in the Crucible or in Gambit.
Yeah.
They say in here, slowing and freezing enemies has obvious advantages, and we put a lot of effort in thinking about how that affects combat in PvE and PvP. Like how often you can freeze a foe and how long those durations will last. Well-timed Glacier Grenades, you can now create stasis crystal formations that can perform double duty as platforms, like we just said. Players are going to use this new power, be it in form of grenade or a super, to gain easier access to tough-to-reach areas, create new lines of sight, and even do things that we could never predict. I'm really excited for all of these stasis changes, personally.
Yeah. I can't wait. Awesome. I think it's there's a lot of cool changes, man. I don't even know what to say really about them, because I can't wait to just play around with them and I want to go into the Cosmodrome and throw some ice grenades at some, dregs and see what happens. Honestly, I want to test out the different grenades. I like that though, that the grenades, like you said, aren't tied to the specific classes. It's just like, oh, well, these are the grenades everybody gets now. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. Of course, they haven't shown their entire hand regarding stasis. I had personally been wondering about the grenades over the last week or two, since we hadn't seen that in any of the previous deep dives. And then they just tackled it there. They kind of tacked it on at the end. So, yeah, lots of changes coming. I'm very excited to use something other than Blade Barrage or Tether.
Yeah.
For at least a little while. I feel like the novelty won't wear off as quickly with this as it did with Spectral Blades.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, can't wait. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Is it November yet?
It is not November yet, unfortunately. We still have almost exactly 2 months until... exactly 2 months from today, we will have Beyond Light in our hands. 60 days from now.
60 days, everybody. Mark
it was
your
supposed to be
calendars.
12 days from now, but 60 days from...
Don't remind me, okay?
But you know what we can talk about right now, Corey?
What can we talk about?
We could talk about the lore corner.
Ooh,
and about everybody's favorite bald, blue-headed man.
Yes, is it this man?
It is in fact, it is Zavala. We're very excited. We've had several friends of the show and listeners ask us to talk about Zavala, talk about the Traveler's Chosen lore, and now that it is officially in-game, we can actually discuss it. We're going to kind of start with a recap of where Zavala has been this year. These next couple of lore corners are going to be a little bit more disjointed because we don't have an entire character history to go through on several of these characters. It's stuff that's already been explained ad nauseum. Kind of our Friends of the Tower series, Friends of the Light, before we start delving into some miscellaneous things going into Beyond Light. Zavala is the first entry in that because he has been at the forefront of everything since the beginning of Shadowkeep. Ikora's kind of taken a back seat. We haven't seen a whole lot of Ikora the last couple of years. We've seen bits and pieces of her, but really since Cade's death, we haven't seen her show up a lot. We've been seeing Zavala more and more, though. And I really feel like, kind of like we speculated before, Zavala may be a Guardian that will embrace the darkness at some point this year. He may be the first major character outside of the Guardian, of course, and Eris to really embrace stasis and embrace the darkness to save humanity.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Zavala has a very long history. He, of course, was around when the wall was built. That's when he would first meet Shax. He would meet Sloane then. This week's Exodus quest, he kind of talks about him and Sloane both talk about their shared history of building the wall together, and it's pretty emotional for him realizing what's going to happen with Sloane, and she is the deputy commander. She's basically his second in command. That's the reason why he went to Titan in the first place during the Red War. But he's after taking a back seat for a lot of Forsaken, he was not happy with us for storming the Reef and ultimately executing Uldren. He has remained steadfast that he thinks there will be consequences to us killing him. And I do think we're about to see the consequences of that action play out this fall, by the way, be it good or for bad. We're going to see that play out. He was one of the ones who sent us back to the moon at the beginning of Shadowkeep to investigate the disturbances that were going on. And, of course, that's when we found Eris Morn, we found the Pyramid, and Zavala's kind of been at the forefront since then. He was kind of taken aback and shocked in a lot of ways when you brought Saint back to the tower. That Saint's alive after all this time. We literally changed the past when everybody thought that he was dead. He really beckoned us to the moon to take out the Vex, stop the Vex invasion. He says, he's really glad that, we took down the Vex with Ikora's help, and of course with Osiris's. And then really we saw him take center stage during Season of the Worthy, and he's remained there since then. He doubts in Rasputin. He's always doubted Rasputin. He doesn't think Rasputin has humanity's best interests at heart, really, and definitely doesn't care about the Guardians or about the Traveler. But him and Anna Bray, of course, infiltrate the Almighty. They realize what's happening, that it is on a crash course for the last city, and they kind of have to work together. He has to learn how to trust Rasputin, which is something Zavala doesn't want to do. Zavala doesn't want to trust a machine, trust an AI really to tell him. He's, of course, in some of these bunkers as we start clearing them out. and he beckons us to retrieve the fourth horseman from his personal vault, from the Vanguard vault. Gives us that quest line. We go through it. Of course, we listen to his funny mixtape he has of Shaq's workouts for him. If you haven't listened to that, I encourage you to go down to Zavala's office while it's still open and find that tape and play it. It's pretty funny. So he has us go track all that down, and he shows up most notably at the Io Seraph bunker, and he asks Rasputin. He tells Rasputin, "I want you to convince me that you understand the stakes and you're on our side." And Rasputin responds by showing him a map of the galaxy and showing him the Pyramid Fleet. Zavala asks Rasputin, what has his attention? Is it this, rebuild, run, etc.? And Zavala's ghost is actually hijacked by Rasputin. He replays messages from the collapse from those who didn't survive, and Zavala understands finally that while Rasputin gave up everything that was swept away, he nonetheless survived and is afraid to fail humanity again. Like, Rasputin expresses for the first time he's afraid to fail, and that's something that Zavala identifies with. He's afraid of failing. You know, the Taken War happened and ravaged our system. The Red War, we lost our home, we lost the tower, we have only just regained it like a year or two ago. And he comes to an understanding with Rasputin, and that they'll give him basically whatever he needs once they're able to destroy the the Almighty. And of course, Zavala watches the destruction of the Almighty above the city with the rest of us. Part of the tower is hit by the debris, notably right behind Zavala, and he's not fazed by it at all, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, because you can actually jump down there now and kind of like walk around a little bit. Yeah,
and there was a special emblem if you went and scanned it from the time that happened until the end of the season. But this season has actually been massive for Zavala in a lot of ways. He's devastated to find out that Rasputin has been shut down and nullified by the pyramids. And that we see him in his office. We see Eris show up and warn him of Savathun interfering with the messages from the pyramids. And when Zavala basically orders her not to go digging for trouble, and she ignores him and goes to the cradle anyways. Probably the most juicy lore, though, of the season is he meets with the representative of the factions, Dead Orbit, the Future Warcult, and New Monarchy, and he tells them that Rasputin is down, and that Eris is studying the threat. She's basically referred to as their hidden asset. They're not telling the whole universe that Eris is alive and working for them still. She's been missing since the fall of the tower. Mm-hmm. They kind of want to keep it that way, keep it to a very tight-knit circle of himself, Ikora, the Hidden, and the Guardian. He gives them intel on the lunar pyramid that we discovered on the moon, and Rasputin in exchange for their aid with preparations for the new threat. And Ikora is a little miffed about this. She thinks he's giving up a little bit too much. And Zavala's like, no, the pyramid threat matters way more than faction politics, and wants her to reach out to Eris because he doesn't know how these groups are going to react once they discover that because he feels it's inevitable. They're going to figure out that Eris is their agent. I think that's setting up a new showdown. The factions have kind of been set off to the side for a while now, and this would kind of be the perfect spotlight to bring them back in Beyond Light. And of course, the final piece of the puzzle is the Exodus questline. When Zavala sends you to the planets, as we discussed, he's very somber about the fates of these characters, which we do learn their ultimate fates in the lore cards that are given to us. Canonically, he's very sad that Sloane wouldn't come back, but he's also, in a way, proud that she's choosing her own resolution. He's not surprised by Asher. He's thrilled that Anna is going to, and spoiler alert, we are going to spoil Anna right here. Anna does decide to come to the tower with Rasputin in tow in a primitive exo body that she's discovered within the Raytech Futurescape. And
so Rasputin's going to be an exo, sort of, maybe.
We're gonna get into Rasputin a little bit more in a few weeks, but basically, Rasputin is going to be Fellwinter 2.0 is the implication that we're all getting. A lot of us thought it was going to happen at the end of last season, and it didn't. So it is 100% happening canonically now that he is coming to the tower in an exo body. Whether he's walking around in November or not is another matter entirely.
Yeah.
But he will be here. He will be strolling around. And he just basically is like, okay, and Vance, give him the finger. I can't wait. He literally says, look, we can't waste any more time on this guy. He's delusional. We can't waste resources and time on him. And that's just the way it's going to have to be. At the end of this quest line, though, he gives us the Traveler's Chosen sidearm that Corey and I were discussing about earlier. And I'm going to read. It's a little bit of a long passage, but we're going to read this. And the flavor text on it says, all we have left now is our faith. We're going to make an immediate assumption here before we start diving in, because I think it's important to have some context before you read this lore. It does not explicitly say it, but it is strongly, strongly implied. This is being told from the perspective of Savathun towards Zavala. This is Savathun spying on Zavala, and it's implied that she is seeing him through the Ahamkara skull hanging above Shax's crucible area, which we've also discussed it in this season, and I believe here on this show, where the Drifter and Eris have some banter about it, where she's like, you need to tell that oaf to take it down, and the Drifter's like, yeah, he ain't listening to me. Somebody else can have that job. Like, they are very well aware that with Savathun in the system, old relics of the darkness are coming back to life. So the lore tab for Traveler's Chosen reads as follows. I push into my ossific den, and he is there. I see him looking over the side towards his traveler, head bent. He is speaking softly, but I can hear him. Anyone who was listening could. He waits for a response, and I do as well, tense, curious. He stands attentively, this loyal dog of a man. It is no time at all for me, but for him the hours creep by in silence. I'm ready to choke the voice of his traveler if it answers to him. But there is nothing. He tightens his grip on the railing. I feel something shift inside him, and a new possibility presents itself. Again, I press against the sockets. The net creaks softly with my eagerness. Someone approaches, and he turns his back to his traveler. There is an exchange, obscured by the Rubicon thrash. He has given reports, and hope bleeds from him. He gives the messenger a token of his faith. They accept it without understanding its meaning. He watches as they leave. There is a hollow place in his center. It is beautiful. I return warily. I do not see him, but I hear him. He speaks to all with a voice thick of grief. I must learn how far I have been set back. I reach to him tentatively. Strength. I push and feel only sweet, soft rot. I am delirious with pleasure. It gave them no answers. It was a reflex, the spasm of a numb muscle. A song of joy rises within me now. So, Savathun, it can be kind of is ready to, one, silence the traveler if it ever decides to speak. Which we know the speaker basically lied and said that he spoke for the traveler, but he had never actually heard it. We are left wondering if Zavala is going to hear from the traveler, or is Savathun going to stop him? That skull's going to come into play sooner rather than later. They're really setting the stage for, I think, her to be the main seasonal storyline that'll continue throughout the year, leading into the Witch Queen. There's a lot of implications here, and in today's lore piece that was released, which really focuses on the city, it's up on Bungie.net. We're not going to go into that ad nauseum right now, but the implication we get in that is that people in the city are starting to doubt Zavala's leadership. They're starting to doubt the Guardians, really. Like, are they really here to protect us? Like, they just stand up there in their tower all day, like, saying they're protecting us from all these threats, but we never see them. He's leading the Guardians at a very interesting time. Of course, we know the previous Vanguard was Osiris, and he's obviously excommunicated from the city, and Saint 14 left shortly after. Now he's back, but it's kind of, we're gathering all allies to our side at this point. That was the whole purpose of the Exodus quest, and we're going to see if Zavala can lead him through this. I'm very curious to see how specifically the implications of this lore ring through the rest of the year, because I think we may have an answer with Savathun sooner rather than later, in all frankness. I think we may see her make her first move on Europa. We have the Contact public event. Of course, we know that she's interfering with that with the marionettes. I'm very curious to see what they do with her and the Continuing Darkness storyline, though, because we know she's trying to seize that power for herself and is just intensely jealous that not only did the light choose us, but the darkness that she's pursued for so long is choosing the Guardian as well.
Yeah.
So that is a rather dark lore corner for this. In case you haven't known, there really has kind of been a theme. As we talk more about Savathun, she's a bit scarier than Oryx ever was, frankly.
Yeah.
As a master of deceit and trickery. Very, very, very curious to see what happens. And as we continue to get details on this fall and about this year, I want to see what all we're going to have in our future. With this storyline, particularly with Zavala. I'm very curious to see what they do with Zavala and Ikora this coming year.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to, man, when do you think Savathun's coming? Like, do you think we'll see her before the Witch Queen? Do you think it'll be like whatever their version of Season of Arrivals is for next year?
The only way I could see her showing up before then is maybe in a few random cutscenes here and there, like, hey, we're going to show you what's happening elsewhere, kind of like they did with the Uldren Resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that happening. Other than that, I just don't think that we're going to have it. I think that they're going to mainly keep her, let her work in the shadows, maybe have a few strikes or even a raid encounter, maybe even a dungeon that focuses on her advances and on her people. I could see a dungeon where we take down Nokris happening either this year or at the beginning of Witch Queen. Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities there, but yeah, by far this is one of the most impactful lore tabs we've had on a weapon in quite some time.
Yeah, so I'm excited to finally get into that quest line tomorrow for sure.
For sure.
Man, that was a meaty lore corner. This is a meaty episode.
This is a very meaty episode.
I like the meaty episodes. I love Destiny, but I love how much you love Destiny. Like, you know what I mean? Like every time we go into like the TWAB and you're like breaking it down and all like the little tiny details that like probably 90% of the players skip over or miss or whatever. Like, I love it. I love it.
I reached a point where I started getting really tired of having to have people explain things to me or small changes happening and then not realizing for like months that it was a thing.
Yeah.
Even though I read the TWAB, I never quite understood it. And I want to say it was partway through Forsaken. It was really during Season of Opulence where I was like, okay, I want to learn more about mechanics. Like, mods are about to be way more consequential than they are now with the armor system. Like, I'm going to make sure I understand all of this. Sometimes it takes a YouTube breakdown to understand seasonal mods for me, or to really understand how to do a good build. But other than that, like I've kind of prided myself on knowing what's going on, not just like in lore, but in combat, in gameplay mechanics, and it genuinely has made the game more fun for me, I think. Yeah. Like I'm kind of realizing the full vision of what Bungie wants, and like obviously the game is set up to where you don't have to do that at all. Like you don't have to have the best mods to have a good experience or to do endgame. It does make it vastly easier for you, but I never had Mountaintop. Like I've done the raids without Mountaintop, and every time I would go in to do one, especially during Forsaken, people would be like, "All right, throw on Mountaintop and Recluse." I was like, "Well, I don't have either of those."
Yeah. So
what else can I use? And I like going against the meta a lot of times. I'm not above using a Gnawing Hunger to get Crucible bounties done, but I enjoy playing what I like playing with. There's a reason why I run around with Breach Light and a Shoddy sometimes. There's a reason why I run around with Wither Horde and Gnawing Hunger. Like, I want to play with what I like. And I think that makes the game more enjoyable when you understand how things can work together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
that's why I'm so excited for Stasis. It's the biggest gameplay change that we've seen since the game came out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first
in
subclass.
terms of abilities.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first new subclass since the Taken King. It's the, I mean, there's been different subclasses, I guess, within the subclasses, but like, this is like the first new change. It's going to change up everything. It's going to change like the way strikes work and the way that you encounter things. Like, it could possibly break old content.
This is the most consequential. To me, this is the most consequential batch of supers since we got the first tether in Taken King.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, Well was a big deal, but we'd already had self-res before. Like, Well is great, and obviously it's gotten nerfed, but I think it's the most consequential batch of supers. Like, in terms of just changing how the entire field works in every single mode, I don't know that we've quite had one since the tether came on the scene.
Yeah.
So, I'm very excited for what this year is going to bring.
Yeah, me too. So, is there anything else we need to hit on before we?
No, I think that's good. Unless you got anything else, guys, if you have any questions, if you have anything you want to see covered in the Lore Corner or discussed in more detail, guests you want to see, please hit up either Corey or myself. We are always looking for suggestions.
Yes. We want your feedback. We get feedback on the other shows. We want your feedback on this show. It is the Tower Casuals. I know there's a few people who listen to this that aren't as into Destiny as you or I are, but I am. Yeah, whatever.
One of them.
Yeah, words, English. But and I think people are interested in why people are so interested in Destiny. So
yeah,
like, I want to hear from the people who aren't as into Destiny as we are, because I want to know what their perspective is on it and what they want to hear, and I think it'd be interesting. So hit us up at Tower Casuals on Twitter. towercasuals@gmail.com is our email, or you can hit Josh or I up on Twitter. We will definitely filter those questions into the show when they fit. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching and or listening, Tower Casuals. I hope the live producing on the fly through the Twitch video was to your liking. If you're an audio version, I'm sorry for the clickety clacks on the old microphone, but doing it for the video. So go watch the video. youtube.com/BossRushGames or BossRushGames.com. You can find us live right here on Thursday nights on twitch.tv/BossRushGames live, or on podcast services on Fridays around 6 p.m. I'm trying to get it up by then. So, yeah, it's been I like this change. Ever since we changed to Thursdays, it's just been so much better.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, Josh, where can we find you?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at Josh_Finn with 2 N's. Follow me for all my juicy Destiny goodness and my constant bemoaning over still not knowing the price of the PlayStation 5.
Yes, well, I'll ask you after we're done. You can find me at IamCoreyNHC on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on a plethora of shows here on Boss Rush Games. You can find me hosting Nintendo Pow Block, which is our Nintendo show, and you should check out our family of shows. Doesn't matter what console you have, you just listen. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, we love you.